They call it survival of the fittest. For the area's deer population, even some of the fittest are not surviving. Cold temperatures and heavier than usual snowfall increased stress and buried the usual staples of the deer's diet this winter. State and private emergency feeding has helped some, but DNR officials say the feeding will not prevent heavy losses to the herd.
Well, we're going to see a fairly significant mortality of fawns and also of adult deer. We're probably looking about a 30% mortality of adults and 40% on fawns. It's going to be a pretty tough winter on them.
Members of the Minnesota Deer Hunters Association warned that the DNR's estimates may be too conservative. They say over half of the state's deer may die before green-up. Some members want to see the feeding program expand.
We propose the Adopt a Deer Yard project. And with the Adopt a Deer Yard project, we're still in the planning stage, but we need to look at what impact we can have upon the deer herd in a severe winter.
The DNR and the deer hunters are in agreement about one thing. Next year's deer harvest will need limitations. Wildlife managers are already expecting to significantly cut back antlerless permits in Zone 1 and maybe do away with them entirely, dramatically reducing hunters' chances to get a deer this season. DNR spokesmen say that will depend on how high the death toll is, and they won't know that until later this spring.
The shelves look full at this Duluth emergency shelter, but there's still not enough food for those who really need it.
January and February were slow because you come out of the holiday season, that type of thing. So we're in need of donations. We need help.
Money donations rather than food can be better used. It buys the items that recipients need the most. Jody is a single mother that needs the food shelf to feed herself and her 2-year-old son, Colin.
I mean, without their help, I don't know what we would do. I mean, without the food that they give us, I don't know. He certainly wouldn't be as healthy as he is right now.
Thousands of families use food shelves to make it through tough times. In Jody's case, she recently moved to Duluth and has lost her job. She says the food shelf saves her money to help pay the bills.
Most money goes to the rent and the bills and the heat. And then the rest of it, what I have left goes for food, and it's just never enough.
The shortage of food shelf items sparked action at the Duluth Depot. The Empty Bowls Project sold handmade bowls filled with soup to raise money for the Northern Lakes Food Bank. School children, artists, even inmates at the federal prison camp made items to help those less fortunate.
With nothing in the house as it is, we still need food. If we can't, don't have money for furniture or a phone, you still need to eat.
In Duluth, Kim Steininger, Channel 6 News.
We're positive about the arguments that we've made, and hopefully there will be a sound ruling from the judge coming up in the next several weeks.
There's Aquila and Nanook.
And that's Rosie Wilson.
Last year, Bill Johnson of International Falls thought sledding would be a good way to bring his family together.
I ended up with these three and got to thinking maybe a sled would be fun to do.
Bill and his 2-year-old son Wilson have taken hundreds of snow trips.
See how quick they go.
Last Saturday, though, an early evening trip with his small son turned tragic.
Well, when I was putting him in that night, something told me, this is something wrong here. And
Partway through the run, the dog's lines got tangled. Bill jumped off like he'd done dozens of times before, fixed the lines, but this time the dogs took off before he could grab hold.
it's just there 1 second and gone the next, and you go, it's too late now. All I could do is chase him.
So he frantically followed the tracks into the rapidly approaching darkness, his son strapped into the runaway sled. He ran to neighbors PJ and Warren, who gave chase too. PJ picked up the tracks, heading out to the ice, big ice, Rainy Lake.
And that's when we really got scared, because they had been headed straight for open water.
Hours into the search, Dad feared the worst.
My heart just sunk. And I was just, for a moment there, I was just sure he was in the water, so.
But the dogs, it turned out, turned away from the water just then. And 3 hours after being separated, searchers found little Wilson safe, asleep, still strapped into his sled 6 miles from home. So after the events of this past weekend, an invention, Bill's own personal leash.
To answer any questions regarding my income or whatever, because I'm not view here that confronts people of color in the city as police misconduct and city-sponsored racism, and I will not allow
particularly an officer of the law. I think that this was definitely an act of intimidation and harassment, and it was planned. Because never before, and our meetings are open, have any of these gentlemen attended one of our meetings or requested any of these things.
And he kind of straightened it out then, and sure enough, he landed. He hit the road and skidded across almost all 4 lanes here, and gasoline was flying, and he landed, and he didn't hit anybody, and it was a miracle.
I think rather than spreading it all over our community, made it an acceptable situation. We start kind of like we can have the best of both worlds. We got a protected environment. When I first saw the buffer zone for each of those projects, I was concerned that it was not big enough. We do need to protect our neighborhoods. I think that's very important, and I think the neighbors, people who own homes in the area, deserve that protection. That buffer zone between the 2 projects was relatively small at this point. Between the 2 projects, it's a little bit over 40 acres of buffer zone. As you drive down.
From Detroit up, it was pretty heavy. Seemed to me that a lot more than normal years. It was a pretty rough trip up.
April 19, 1995. Tragedy strikes the heartland of America as 168 people die in the bombing of the Murrah building in Oklahoma City. On the first anniversary of the tragedy, Duluth federal workers say the incident has opened their eyes.
I think on a day like today, you have an increased awareness about the environment that we're working in, and even some of the tragedies that go on in society.
Since the bombing, tighter security has been installed in the Duluth Federal Building. But some employees say that there is still a sense of insecurity that something so tragic could happen here.
When you've never had to question that, you don't really think about it. But when something happens to you or someone you know, then that issue is there in your mind.
Federal employees also observed the day with a moment of silence, and a half-staff flag flew near the building. But many say they will remember the bombing far longer than just one day.
So every time you reflect back on the news or you see the pictures again, or you kind of think of those events, I think you still have the same kind of feelings of tragedy and loss. And it doesn't take an event like an anniversary 1 year later to call those feelings up.
My prayers are with them, and I know prayers of a lot of other people are as well.
In Duluth, Tamika Snowden, Channel 6 News.
So that's good. So, well, I'll tell you what, I appreciate your time, Ron, and so we'll look forward to seeing you at the voting. Winter goes from 12 till 8 o'clock.
Gene Hansmeyer supports an $11.9 million bond referendum for the expansion and improvement of ESCO public schools. Supporters have set up a phone bank to call every voter in town. ESCO school officials say the project is badly needed.
And we have a real need to upgrade the old section, the 1920 version of our building, for fire code purposes. Also, there's some structural things that need to be taken care of. Handicapped accessibility is also another real major need in the oldest section of our building.
Other plans for the referendum money include an expansion for the elementary school and making room for expected increases in enrollment. However, other items including a new weight room and a library accessible to the public have some residents saying that's too much.
I realize school has changed in the last 20 years since I've gotten off the board, but it hasn't gone to the change to the extent where all these frills are needed.
Referendum supporters say they're hopeful the bond issue will pass.
And that most of them are supportive of it, so I would hope that's an indication of what's actually going to happen.
Our committee has really been successful in changing some minds, but other people were just not going to win over. But we certainly tried.
In ESCO, Tamika Snowden, Channel 6 News.
I'm Tom Brokaw. What have we done for you lately? We've gone beyond the headlines with in-depth reports on what matters to you: healthcare, the tobacco wars, child abuse. What's next? Don't miss NBC Nightly News tonight.
I'm Michelle Lee. Coming up at 6 o'clock, Northland fire officials are warning residents to take precautions to prevent grass fires. The North Shore Scenic Railroad made its first voyage out of the station today. We'll take you along. And Channel 6 News continues its special reports on the Peter Pan generation with a look at one Northlander who found success on a football field. For these stories and much more, join us for the Channel 6 o'clock news.
need to.
Superior police continue their investigation into Saturday's murder-suicide. 70-year-old Bill Dimitri killed his 13-year-old daughter Teddy while she was sleeping Saturday morning and then turned the gun on himself.
Sometime after that, our emergency response team made an entry to the building and found 2 people dead in the building.
Students at Superior East High School are suffering from the loss and trying to deal with the pain of losing one of their friends.
I couldn't believe it. I was really sad and angry. It's hard to believe.
The students are being offered help. Counselors are at the school to listen and try to help.
The students are finding themselves also coming and just sharing their stories about what life was like with Teddy.
Well, she was real nice and always happy, and she's just a real nice person.
And parents were also seeking help for their kids.
Parents were calling the building and should we send our kids to school, and the answer is obviously yes. You want students to be here with other students so that they're not alone.
School officials and students say Teddy was involved in school activities. She was on the honor roll, the drug-free club, played volleyball, was a gymnast, and involved in the band.
Well, it's a tremendous loss to our community, to our school. She was an asset in every respect to our school. Just a super individual.
We had all made cards and posters so that we could bring it to our mom at the funeral and visitation, and we hope that that'll kind of cheer her up.
In Superior, Kim Steininger, Channel 6 News.
That I was somewhat shocked as a taxpayer to learn that there are not art and music specialists in all the elementary schools. And that's a grave concern to me as a taxpayer.
Of the local money is funding the school, and they have 2/3 state aid. And what happens is as that value goes from $2,000 to $3,000, the portion that's local levy increases by that amount, and it's absolutely a wash. And the reason for that is so that we can adjust for the various property tax bases statewide. I think the argument that gets made is that if an individual lives in a house, they're not gaining anything additionally by the value of that house or that assessment.
Like it's hidden down in the corner or something. I don't spend an hour looking on the can or at a can to find the date on it and when it's supposed to be sold by.
Do
information we have now is some of the people who may have been involved in the incident or witnessed the incident are identified as being gang members. And so we'll have to find out later, if we can, what the real motive for the stabbing was.
All of a sudden, when it got darker, the 2 officers and a lady with the dog started walking down here and looked down at that building down there in the shed, and went to my son's house next door, back of the buildings, and then I had a couple of buildings back there, and they asked me to open the doors.
And those kind of things. And as my father describes it, he was an angry young population in this district. I mean, you know, district. I have 2 children, 7-year-old and 10-year-old. They're going to, you know, every few years is going to be important. Congressman Obie's been there for 27 years. I worked on his campaign in 1969, and the ideas that he held in '69, I think, were close to the 7th district. I think he's become disjointed from that 7th district over time, and that's why I've chosen to run.
These junk guns are not designed for hunting. They're not designed for target shooting. They're designed, I think, for, unfortunately, one purpose, and that is to be easily accessible to people who too often use them irresponsibly.
We have to be also recognize the fact that the athletic department had handled himself in a way that we wish he had not, and that does have an impact on the department.
We're coupling the power of the police forces rooted in the community with the experience of people who have been fighting domestic violence for a long time.
It wasn't so bad at first, you know, but now when you live here and you see what's going on in the neighborhood, it really gets to you. I mean, it really gets to me. I don't sleep with my windows open or anything because it's just been one thing after another.
You keep that good health and that good nutrition up year-round. And when schools are closed, we become the vehicle for an awful lot of that for our families, and particularly the children.
Fishing has always been a popular sport here in the Northland because people of all ages can do it. And that's what makes it so much fun. There's something really special going on that we want to tell you about for children so that they can learn the difficult sport of fly fishing. First, they have to start with learning how to tie flies. And we're going to talk to angler Joe Valley here, and he's going to show us something. What are we going to do today?
Well, I'm just going to show you the basic tools and what we use in order to tie a fly. Basically, we have the fly tying vise, and there's several different kinds of vices. This is a lever-operated vise. The vise really just holds the hook. Okay, so we'd secure the hook into the vise, clamp it in there, and then we'd use this tool called the bobbin, which holds the thread. And with that, we can take and wrap the thread around the hook.
And this is exactly what kids who are going to be taking part in the fly tying demonstration are going to be doing, right?
Yes, exactly. We'll go over the basic fundamentals of tools and how they're used, and then we'll go and tie a fly. And the fly we're going to tie will be this one here. It's called the McGinty, and it's a good fly for kids to tie. It looks like a bumblebee, and it's good for panfish and trout. You have the vise, fly tying vise. You have a bobbin. And then the only other tool that you really have to have is a scissor.
Sounds like we have the tools that we need to get started, so let's get started.
Initially, they're not sure what to do, but we find that kids are very well coordinated and learn how to tie flies. By the end of the class, they're really having a lot of fun, and They'll tie 3 or 4 different patterns in 2 hours that we do the class in.
You can see we usually have a full house. As I was telling the kids, we usually have girls here as well. Girls are frequently the best tires of the two.
What do you think the attraction is with fly fishing besides the a river runs through it, the movie that a lot of people have seen? What is the attraction about fly fishing, and why do you think it's caught on so quickly here?
It's fun to cast a fly line. It's fun to be out there where trout live in clean, cold water. And I think they're finding that it just can be more effective.
It looks like it takes a lot of practice.
It takes a little bit of time to get the technique down to cast a fly, but it's something that's easily learned.
How long have you been a fisherman?
Not very long.
On May 12th, Rob's custom cabinetry in Superior burned to the ground. It was a devastating loss for co-owners Rob Peterson and Dennis Archambault. The day after the fire, Rob put things into perspective.
All of the things that are really valuable to me were in my living room last night. My 2 boys and my wife, so I think that with that in perspective, this is just stuff.
But today, Rob has a new perspective. Members of the community are helping them put the pieces of their business back together. This weekend, friends, customers, and even some total strangers are building a new home for the cabinetry business. Dennis says this project is a new beginning for their company.
And there's a lot of skilled people here, different contractors, and then just a lot of friends and even people I've never met before that have just come from, they knew somebody that knew us, and just to do whatever they can.
Dennis and Rob say it's really encouraging to live in a community where people care enough about a business to volunteer their time to rebuild it.
You know, we've never really been real profit motivated. We've been kind of people motivated, and thus we've developed, besides a vast network of customers, a vast network of friends. And it just seemed like, you know, everyone came to us and said, how do we do it? How can we help? Let's get it back together.
Rob says after the fire, his boys were concerned the business would never get rebuilt.
It's been a long, hard struggle to build a business, and they've seen all of that. And then to see it just go up in smoke, I think they were a little worried for me, and actually that was a real motivator.
You know, it's been a real, you know, hard thing to go through, but so many things have come together in such a positive manner. It's really been an uplifting experience.
Rob and Dennis say after this weekend, they'll have a better business and a better building to put it in. In Superior, Liza Olson, Channel 6 News.
They would get a rebate from the district, but then we would put it on their property tax bills. And I think what we heard from people last fall is that the property tax collection system is not as fair as the volume-based system.
How about a nice hand for Florian? 26 years this man's been with us. 26 years.
result was that what they did is they made a political statement. A political statement which is done deliberately to support another candidate, and so the whole episode was a farce from beginning to end, in my judgment. It had no merit. After the legislature adjourned, sine die, it was over with. But today is celebrate. Let's celebrate.
I feel good, and you know, you got to have you've got to have that zest and that desire to go back down, because once you lose that, then you better get out of the.
This is just a freak catch. I mean, it isn't something you catch every day. It's something that's you're going to have to just go by. Once you get something like that there, you don't get them every day. Once in a lifetime.
Have organization and the financial foundation that can allow us to focus. We'll be talking later on this evening, so we'll be touching on to help our students gain safe passage to adulthood. But any question needs to result performance in basic reading. We have to have concern. I believe we can build a critical mass of staff members who want, who know, who believe, and who will do whatever needs to be done to improve teaching and support.
This video of the murder scene has provided the only relevant information so far in the murder-suicide investigation. On July 12th, the bodies of convicted murderer James Wentala and his last victim, Susan Irene Stingley, were found in Wentala's van. Authorities say Wentala strangled Stingley with a green bandana and then committed suicide. His last words were scratched into his dashboard.
No one to help. No one who cares reached my end.
Now that Wentala's dead, authorities in several nearby jurisdictions are investigating to see if he might have been responsible for other murders.
Other agencies are interested in some of the movements that Wentala may have made in their community. There are some that are interested because they have some open homicide cases.
Authorities are trying to establish the time of death. Autopsies on the bodies showed Wentala and Stingley had been dead for 3 to 4 weeks before they were found. But authorities say Stingley's body was much more decomposed than Wentala's. They believe Wentala may have driven around with Stingley's body in his car for some time. What investigators say they need most now is help from the public. They're asking anyone who may have seen James Wentola or Susan Stingley after June 19th to contact the Douglas County Sheriff's Office. In the meantime, they've hired an insect expert to help them determine how long the two people had been dead by studying fly life cycle activities in their bodies.
They'll lay their eggs, and then that process will take place until they hatch out, relay eggs again, and they can review that process based on the eggs and the flies that are removed from the corpses of both of the individuals.
Authorities are also waiting for the full autopsy results from the State Crime Lab in Madison. In Superior, Barbara Riles, Channel 6 News.
I think it's smart. I'm glad they're doing it. I'd want to be protected too. It's just sad that we have to be that way. We have to live this way.
More and more people are calling him Senator Welfare penalizes the taxpayer, and it's time for change. And Paul Wellstone is the most disconnected, the most embarrassingly liberal member of the Senate. He not only wants to and objects to all change, he wants more of the same.
That's everybody's hope. His solutions were
That he is voting in the Senate. So today, America...
I believe that the current welfare bill will hurt Minnesotans, will hurt all people in the United States, and will hurt most affect the most vulnerable in our society, that being our children and that being our elderly.
Friends and family gathered to share some special memories with Al Butler. It was his retirement party, a retirement from nearly 28 years with the Duluth Police Department. He paved the way for many. He's the only African American who served on Duluth's police force.
It was a unique situation, but the first couple of years were really tough, but as the years went by, things got easier, and I was accepted more.
He started with the police department in February of 1969. Chief Scott Lyon says he's made a difference.
So being a friend of the kids and families and pointing people in the right direction, I think that's really important, and he's just done an excellent job for us in that respect.
Even his family says he's made a difference for the communities of Duluth.
Central Hillside is going to really miss him. He's done an awful lot for the people in the hillside and including the children.
Him being a police officer on the street, being the big idol and the big name, it was the same way at home. You know, he was a great dad, and he was always there for you.
Al has taken a job working with the U.S. Marshal's Office as a courthouse security officer and says he will miss the police department.
I really hate to be leaving, but there comes a time in every man's life, us old warriors have to move over and make way for the new centurions, and that's what I had to do.
There has been a scholarship set up in his name for any minority student considering an education in law enforcement. For Al Butler, law enforcement has been a big part of his life. In Duluth, Kim Steininger, Channel 6 News.
I didn't do it.
Because I've learned so much today, and
I think everybody's really having a good time, but there's something to learn by all of us being together, and especially for the children, I think that's the most important thing. And hearing the music, seeing the costumes, the dance, the food and the crafts, all of this from all over the world, right here in Duluth.
I believe that other states in the Union have put more energy into time, money, and energy into reforming their schools. So I would say we're probably falling behind because the other states are getting better.
Hey, well, I guess with some folks, baby.
And we missed it on the last night show, but we got here today, and man, I'm telling you, we had a good time. Beautiful weather. We don't have to wear no sweaters or nothing. It's fantastic. We're having a wonderful time, and we'll be back again next year.
What was going through your mind?
We were scared. I mean, we didn't know whether to lock doors or just what to do. But we were scared because nothing like this has ever happened out here before. Never. And we've been out here quite a few years.
When shots rang out in Stony Brook Township just before 10 o'clock Saturday night, no one was quite sure just what was happening, and they still aren't sure. 9 shots were fired at this home a few miles out of Cloquet. 1 shot piercing a solid wood door, ricocheted off a television, and struck 40-year-old Diane DeVere in the stomach. DeVere's husband asked not to be shown on camera, but he says the event has shown him not to take safety for granted, and his neighbors agree.
Well, we're going to make sure the doors are locked. There's times when we've kept them unlocked because we felt perfectly safe, but now we're going to keep them locked at night and everything. And I've even said when I'm home by myself, that door's going to be locked.
Neighbors say the DeVeres are quiet and don't have any enemies, so it makes them wonder if a random shooting could hit their homes.
If they do, why, we just got to thank the Lord in that if nobody gets hurt.
As with many rural areas, residents of Stony Brook Township say one of the reasons they live out here is the peace and quiet. But when crime invades their community, it makes them wonder, is anyone safe in their own home?
We don't know. Maybe some of these here people can come back or something and we'll have it all over again. It makes you unsafe even in your own home.
And I don't like that they're starting to shoot at anything.
In Stony Brook Township, Jason Rice, Channel 6 News. You think they walked up or something?
Maybe darn right. I still think it was because
Roaming the streets isn't the only option for kids in Superior with nothing to do. Many young people have discovered La Petite, an alcohol-free coffee house on Tower Avenue. Part of the allure of La Petite is that they give aspiring bands a place to play.
We originally started the idea of bringing the music in with the idea of hopefully bringing the local talents out. We started with just a little karaoke machine, and pretty soon somebody in the band or somebody in the group said, you know, I play the guitar. Next thing you know, they're calling for coming down to play gigs. And
many bands have played at La Petite in its 2-year run. According to club management, just about any musician is welcome to play, and setting up a date isn't hard at all.
We don't ever try to be selective. I always thought that if you could play Spoons in a Trash Can Lid, you'd be next. Of course, you had to make it sound good. But we're in the phone book under a couple different areas, La Petite, either under coffee houses. Just give us a call.
In Superior, Dave Anderson, Channel 6 News.
And I think it'd just be a one heck of an experience, you know. There's another thing why I'm going is, you know, for the money and that, and, you know, get experience. Maybe I'll go into that field or something in the long run.
Most of them will be on the line. They'll be on the fire itself, and they'll be working under the direction of a crew leader.
Take 100 cars, a few hundred people, and add good food, and you have the recipe for a great time. Erickson's A&W in Aurora held their last classic car cruise night of the season last night, and the turnout was phenomenal. The goal of the cruise night is to give car enthusiasts an informal chance to get together.
Actually, it's a nice way for the car crews or the car clubs to have a night out, and they don't have to have their cars judged. They don't have to have them in mint condition. They can just come and have a good time.
As a meteorologist, I usually have my eye to the sky, but when my head isn't in the clouds, it can usually be found under one of the hoods of one of my rusty old relics. But my little red Barracuda here does not compare to the pampered beauties that can be found at the cruise night.
Well, I've like I say, I started from the bottom, put all new suspension and all, fixed all the body work and brand new interior. Fenders came from Texas. I ordered a special out of Texas out of a junkyard down there.
From Chryslers to Chevys, Fords, or even Packards, there was something for everyone at the cruise, and brand loyalty took a backseat to the camaraderie found among the old car lovers.
It's just a lot of fun to be with people that enjoy old cars, and it's fun to drive them, and our Mustang is pretty comfortable riding it.
If you're interested in taking part in one of Aurora's classic cruise nights, you've got just under a year to get your hot rod restored. The next cruise night will be held next June. In Aurora, Dave Anderson, Channel 6 News.
try to vary that flight pattern of where we do that sonic boom, and if they hear it, there really is nothing to worry about. It's just the jet going by.
Definitely. It will definitely enhance their safety. They are terrified. They are in fear for their lives and for the lives of their children. So to have something that they can use to call for help immediately is wonderful. And the phones are pre-programmed so that with the push of a button, they can be dialing 911, the Superior Police Department, or the CASTA hotline.
They're currently under investigation, and we're looking at all possibilities here and trying to look at motives and trying to decide, see if we can find out what's going on.
That was Elvis, right?
That was Elvis, or the son of Elvis. And he wasn't the only one.
Got some cheese dogs that are really good, baby, I'll tell you. The mini donuts, they're the best.
Is there a two-fisted thing?
Well, there's nowhere out here we can get a fried peanut butter and banana sandwich, so that's what Elvis would eat.
They were having a good time, especially Elvis number 3 here.
That's me, the son of Elvis, right? I could get the shake, rattle, and roll all the way up to Midway, man. I just do that. All right, we'll do the walk now. There you are, young lady.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate you coming out.
Oh, I appreciate you too.
Okay, very good. It's nice to see people like you.
What's your name? You're Elvis?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, geez,
Yeah,
I
yes,
gotta
ma'am.
give you a hug.
Oh, say, okay. Give me
That was
big
a
hug.
fairly standard female reaction to the sight of Elvis.
Are you lonesome tonight?
Yes, I am.
Do you miss me tonight?
Yes, I do.
Are you sorry we drifted apart? Are you sorry, honey?
Yeah.
Very
When are you
good.
coming back?
Like I said, stay away from my wife. Come on, I'm dead, man. You can't beat me up any worse than that.
It's the king. Yeah, it's the king.
Gotta say hi to the pregnant lady. Elvis.
How's the pregnant lady doing?
Good. Hi, Elvis.
What's your name, honey?
Lisa.
What's he or she gonna be?
Baby Russell.
Baby Russell, you already know it's a boy? All right, let me bless the little fella. All right.
Yep, he was a ladies' man. Got away with stuff that would likely get a normal guy slapped.
What's that?
But of course he was
Well, thank you
Elvis,
very
at
much.
least until he finished work for the day.
Now, at 6 o'clock
Ken
tonight,
Speak,
I
Care
wanna-
11 News at the Great Minnesota Get-Together.
Thing to do. How you doing, sweetheart?
Had such a great record.
In Glass, State Chair, Minnesota State University Student Association.
For over 11 years now, both at Penn State University.
Look, we're going to take a response that I think, by the way, it has limited human casualties, very limited, very proportionate, not all out going to war, and I think is exactly the right step we ought to take.
And we're in an electronic age. Without electronics, without the ability to assess computer technology, the blind are going to be left behind. And we need to keep up with the skills so that each person can compete in their chosen field.
Black.
Oh, yeah?
Either today or tomorrow.
But I think being available to our kids, talking honestly with them about what happened to Paul Antonich, letting them know that you're there to talk to them and not, say, imposing yourself on them. I talked to a parent the other day who was experiencing a lot of these things with their own child that he didn't.
The fight on Minnesota's border lakes revolves around motor use and local control. It's a fight about places like this, scheduled to take place in meeting rooms for what could be months to come.
And I think they're two different things.
Today was the first day of mediation in the Voyageurs National Park dispute. Talks on the boundary waters begin next week. Panelists say this is the best and only way to resolve disputes over Minnesota's only national park.
Absolutely critical that any mediation process, to the extent it's possible, represent all views. You have to have everybody at the table in order to do a mediation, and hopefully then you'll reflect a consensus that really is representative of just about all the interests.
Today, members brainstormed and came up with a list of over 25 issues they would like to discuss during the negotiating process. Issues like who should run the management council, and should wilderness be added to the park, and should float planes be allowed here?
I think it's really useful to have the broadest range of ideas and representation here, and I think it'll be good for the process.
From here, the committee will hammer out solutions for issues which have festered for 20 years in Voyageurs, but members won't just be sitting behind closed doors debating these issues.
The 17th and the 18th will be in the park itself. We'll tour the park, we'll look at the physical facilities, we'll have the Park Service help us frame the context of how the park needs to proceed and what the relevance is then of trying to knife in these issues.
Congressional committees have already heard opposing arguments from people who want to change both Voyageurs and the boundary waters. Compromises worked out by these committees could help Congress make its final decision. In Evelyn, Kim Steininger, Channel 6 News.
Could be many different things. Just about every farmer along the river has a block with a rope tied to their pump for their sprinkler system, so it's unknown if this is anything of importance or not. But
It was a means of attracting us there, one way or another. It wasn't Mr. Parkett alone. Could have been anybody. But we feel strongly it was a means of getting us to respond to a call.
And when you went into the apartment, I know you guys found some disturbing stuff, whether it be the magazines. What did you find there?
They found Soldier, Fortune magazines. They found boxes.
Very hard at getting that time back. And at the end of July, well, as we understand, there is a shortage of cement in our area, and that has certainly created some problems and concerns on both the DOT's part and the City of Superior's. We've been working all week long to try to resolve that issue, and we're happy to tell you this morning that we have resolved it. The schedule for paving on Tower Avenue as we speak.
I don't want to lose you, but even a fool could see.
In the world of country music, recording star John Barry has made his mark. Barry is humble about his success. Memories of the long and winding road to fame have not faded, and neither has his intense approach to his work.
Well, it's been a lot of work to get to this place, and I'm not done yet. I'm not near the place I want to be. I've got a long way to go. There are a lot of people watching this broadcast right now going, who is that guy? And I'm the guy that sings "Your Love Amazes Me" and "You and Only You" and "Kiss Me in the Car," but they don't, and you know, they don't always put the name, face, and songs together.
Touring on the road is a family affair for John Barry and his wife Robin. They have their children with, and it's 245 days out of the year that they're traveling to towns just like ours. The miles on the road can be tiresome, and the setup and teardown work is exhausting. But life on the road doesn't seem to bother the Barry family. When you hear those sweet harmonies, it's John's wife Robin helping to make it happen. Through all the hard work, music reinforces the bond of love between husband and wife.
Well, there are certain moments in the show every night that he'll glance at me, or maybe he'll come over to me, and there are times when it's our own little private moment. Maybe everybody can see, but there's really a connection between the two of us.
She's a sweet woman, a dear woman, and I love her very much. And I'm very fortunate that we're in a position that we get to work together, and that we get to travel together the way we do. And we're a very blessed family, and I'm just very thankful for her and our children.
In Duluth, Jason Rice, Channel 6 News.
Well, right. See, I would have remembered it if we had done. A lot of the earlier studies were very small studies, knew who was getting the drug and who was getting placebo. That is the biggest difference. This one can be given up to 24 hours from the onset of the stroke symptoms, and that's a great advantage. That's going to allow for a much higher percentage of patients to be potential candidates for this.
and they allege that they did individually and aiding and abetting and acting in concert with one another effect the death of Paul Antonich while committing the offense of kidnapping.